I think next up on the list, unless somebody has some business or something we need to talk about, we're gonna be moving on to our demonstration with Greg Gallegos. Are we? Everybody's all set? I mean, let me find Greg in the room here. I'm looking for that chair. There it is.
There it is.
And Greg, you're on. Let's
Hi.
hey, let's give a big hand for Greg.
Wow. Oh, thank you so much. How is everyone doing? Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Fantastic. Oh, good. All right. So thanks guys for having me once again. So I think we're going to do a thin wall vessel with some embellishments, texturing, and I'm just going to go through kind of, a few of the textures that I do and how I come about, getting them, and just different little tips and tricks and bits that I use for texture. They're all pretty standard. They're all pretty easy. So we're going to start with the vessel first. I've already cut my block and I've kind of got it marked out. As you can see, if I go to the top here, well, it's kind of, but this is my rough shape I'm going to have. I'm going to go over real quick one of the normal shapes that I go to if I'm going to turn a vessel is, it's pretty standard shape, but the way I align the grain is a little bit different because I want the piece to move because this is wet wood. It's real green. I just cut it, 30 minutes ago. So if I'm looking at the pith of the log, which is right here, I'm going to actually I'm going to draw it out because, trying to cut it without drawing it out, sometimes it's difficult. Since I want the piece to move a certain way, I'm going to, instead of having the vessel be symmetrical with the grain like this, I'm going to move everything over one way or the other. It doesn't matter. But so I'm going to make the opening of my vessel right here to the left or to the right of the pith. And I'm just going to, draw it out a little bit like that. So why I'm doing that is because once I put this in the microwave and dry it out, it's going to distort, this side that's closer to the pith will push out this way and this one will kind of come over this way. And hopefully it works better with smaller opening vessels. But what I'm going to, do with the larger opening, it'll still move, which is fine. But with smaller opening vessels, and it depends on the type of wood, you can get a lot of movement out of it. So we're going to go ahead and do that. This is just straight. This is just maple.
Maple.
Just silver maple. Trying to think, any wood will move, but you get some woods that move a lot, especially when they're green, obviously. A lot of the fruit woods move quite a bit. Mulberry moves a lot. What else? I'm trying to think. Any burl, obviously. If you can get some good burl, it'll move a lot. So we're going to get started. And is that top view all right? Can you guys see that okay?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Yep, but if anybody's got any questions for Greg,
Yep.
feel free to interrupt him. He can hear you. So
I can hear you. Just
yep.
Normal end grain turning.
This is a side grain, actually. This is an end grain. This is not an end grain turning. This is just side grain. So my end grain's actually right here. So, my grain's running. It would be perpendicular to the, lathe bed. So, and the other reason for that is, yes, side grain will move a little bit more than end grain. So that's usually my go-to with that. I do turn end grain too, but it doesn't move as much. I find it easier to turn end grain vessels than side grain, I guess, kind of. But it just depends. I'm just going to make a cylinder really out of this. Using a trusty 1/2-inch bowl gouge. I just want to get it, like I said, a nice cylinder, screw it up. Kind of like a blank canvas, I guess. Now I'll just cut the tenon for the chuck. I'm going to leave a little bit of a nub on the bottom for remounting when I turn the bottom. Normally when I turn things, I'll do like a, I guess, I don't know what the proper term is, but it's like, call it like a second tenon right here in order to give myself more room to work towards the bottom. Because this is going to be a round bottom vessel. It won't have a flat bottom. So that'll give me more room to work when I turn the bottom of it. So we're good to go there. Any questions?
Not yet. If anybody has a question, you can also post it on the chat, and we'll see it, and we'll interrupt Greg. If you're not comfortable interrupting him, we are. So.
Oh yeah.
you can post,
anybody just interrupt. I don't care.
Hey, Greg, in your blank, was the pith in that blank when you started? Based on drawing.
It was right at the top. Hold on. Try to get the glare off. But anyways, yeah. The pith is like, if you could see it, it would be like right here in the blank.
So you're going to turn that away pretty soon.
Yeah, all that stuff will be turned away. So, this is the spot where you can kind of pick your shape, right? So, and if you,
and from this view, we can see the second tenon, how you made room there.
Right.
Work the bottom. Okay.
Yeah, you see that, how it's sitting on it right there. So yeah, I'll have room to work into here, which will get, that kind of gives you, it gives you you'll see it when I come around and turn the bottom, you'll be able to see where my curve that I need to go through the round bottom will be inside the second tenon and the bottom tenon. So that kind of, it's very handy. Now this is the spot where I'm going to start kind of roughing out my shape. I'll get it roughed out, and then what I usually try and do is rough it out and get it as close as I can to my final shape, and then I'll take like the 3/8 bowl gouge, and then I'll try and make I'll try and make one cut from top to bottom just to give it a nice smooth finish. A little bump right here. Get rid of that. Fine. Okay.
No sanding necessary.
Well, you know, I won't sand it, but you know, obviously we want to get the best tooled finish we can, so that makes sanding, you know, 1,000 times easier, right? So, and sometimes if you can get it without the tool bumps and all that stuff, you're obviously better off. In order to, like, say if I was going to, you know, if I'm going to texture a vessel or whatever, if I can get a good enough tool finish, I'm not going to sand it, because you're not going to see, it doesn't matter one way or the other. If I'm going to texture the outside completely, you're not going to see it. So, but you would see it like on this vessel right here. You can't see it probably because of the glare, but you can kind of see it here. There's some tool marks here and down here. So if the tool marks are big enough, you might see that through the texture. If the texture is just a light texture on the top. So, but to solve that problem, all I would do would be just to sand it down with like 120 and then just have a nice smooth finish, or just a nice smooth surface anyways. So now I'm going to get my head out of the way, and I'm going to drill my pilot hole to depth for the vessel. So I'm just going to eyeball it, which is I usually do. And this monitor makes it pretty easy, so I don't have to look down at it. So I'm going to put the drill bit, the bottom down to where I want the, you know, where my bottom inside the vessel is going to be. I want to leave a little bit on the bottom of these because the bottoms are a little bit thicker than the rest, because they're going to have a round bottom and I want them to wobble. So if you have a little bit more mass in the bottom, it'll sit up. Hopefully it won't sit straight up. Hopefully it'll sit to the side a little bit. If you went and made the thickness consistent all the way through the bottom, you might not get that the ability to have it sit up enough. So I've done that before, of course. You turn it too much and it ends up sitting on its side, completely laying on its side, which is fine. I mean, it's all right, I guess. Depends on how you want it to look, the aesthetic that you want. But so I'm just going to drill it. I drill at 500 RPM. Not very fast. You don't need to. I eyeballed the depth, so I'm gonna drill it down to about the start of that little ferrule right there. And I suppose if you had a larger, like different kind of bits, you could, drill out a bigger hole. As long as they are nice and sharp, it works good.
So we have a question. I have a question on the chat board. Are you going to texture this before or after you dry it in the microwave?
After.
After you dry it. Okay.
Yep. I've done both. You could texture it before you put it in the microwave. That's not a problem. I would, it's a good question because I would texture the piece before I dry it out if it had a lot of figure, or say it was just a lot of figure, had a lot of curl, because that, the figure in the wood is going to move a lot more than just straight grain wood would, so if it has a lot of curl, ripple, whatever, I would definitely texture it before I microwaved it, because once you do microwave it, that stuff will just collapse on itself, and it'll be a lot more difficult to try and texture it and have it look halfway decent. So, all right, now I'm going to start turning the inside. This opening is fairly large, I guess you would say. So what I'm going to do is I'll probably start turning it with a bowl gouge, actually. And I'll go probably as far as I can go. Can you see that? Maybe move it up a little bit. There. Yep. So keeping the tool on its side, rolled over a little bit so we don't get a catch. It's like you would start turning the bowl, actually. I am going to leave. I do this a lot more with smaller opening vessels, but I'm going to leave this somewhat thicker, the rim right here. There's a reason I do that. I'm just showing it here, but on smaller ones, definitely I do it, because if you turn this to your finished thickness straight away, and when you're in there hollowing, especially on a smaller opening, if you get vibration, and it doesn't take much to get a vibration and have the tool come back and just even lightly tap the edge, the rim, and it'll crack. So if we leave it a little thicker right now, and then I can come back, I'll come back after I'm done turning the inside, and then I'll come back in here with a bowl and with a gouge and just trim this out a little bit and turn it thinner. Okay, so the really unfortunate part about my operation is that I don't have a air hose. I don't have an air compressor, so I have to use a vacuum and a shop vac to clean out my vessels when I'm doing them. So, and it's obnoxiously loud, but the good thing is it only takes a few seconds, so I'm not too worried about it, as long as you guys don't mind. All right, so I have let's see. These are like my go-to hollowing tools for pieces this size and even a little bit larger. Now, these are John Jordan hollowing tools. This is like the, I think these are the 1/2-inch tools. They come in like 3 different bends. This one's like a slight, this one is this one's a slight bend. And then this one has a little bit more of a hook to it. So when I'm going to start out with actually the one with the larger hook on it. It's just how I use these tools. I kind of use them in a motion, like I'm starting at my center hole that I've already drilled out, and I'm gonna cut with, let's see, I'll go to the overhead. I'm gonna cut with this edge right here. I'm gonna be pushing the tool in like this, clearing out my middle so I can work my way to the edges. In sections. I'll do it in sections. And with hollowing, you don't really need to necessarily be a hero and try and get as much out as you can each time. It can cause big problems if you get a lot of shavings backed up in there and you're trying to turn. You can get a catch. It'll vibrate your tool all over the place. So you just have to be ready for that.
Hey, Greg, a question.
Yeah.
You talked about leaving the rim heavy.
Yep.
And finishing that at the end. So
right.
On the body of this vessel, are you going for the finished size right now?
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. So I'll have everything turned to where my finished thickness, except for the little bit up here. So, but then what I usually do when I work in sections is I'll come, and take it out. And I'll leave, it depends. You can kind of gauge it with your fingers, and I'll leave, I don't know, maybe a 1/4 inch or a little bit more. And then I'll come back, but I'm not going to, take too much out at one time before I start turning my final wall thickness, because I want to have that support as I go. I'm just trying to give myself enough room to work as I hollow out. And then as I want to come back up to the top part and start cutting that wall to my finished thickness. All right, time for the vacuum.
That wasn't bad.
No, it doesn't take long. It's just really loud. I'm not a fan of super loud noises, but and with our lighter colored woods, like the shop's kind of dark right now because I don't want to have too much light on it, but with the lighter colored woods like maple, it's not bad because I use a flashlight actually against the wall to judge my thickness. So that's usually not too bad. And I mean, I use the same process for all my vessels, no matter how big or small. I'll take a little bit more out of the middle here. And when you're hollowing to find that center, you know, it's fairly simple, and then you're just kind of feeling for the edge that you just cut. I mean, I'm just kind of pushing the tool straight ahead towards the, you know, the center of the lathe, almost in that way.
Hey, Greg,
Yep.
Ron Campbell wants to know what the wall thickness is that you're working to get.
You know, as thin as I could, probably normally. Right now, maybe not, but you know, subjective, right? If
Yeah, can you put a measurement to that?
you know, I want to get in between a 16th and whatever comes after that, you know, somewhere in there.
Good answer.
Well, I can show you something. It's kind of, you can do too much. How about that? How about a good question? Okay, this piece, it's dusty, but it's a piece of sycamore. This thing is as thin as you're ever going to turn anything. It's like, I mean, eggshell thin, right? You can't do anything with it. It weighs probably an ounce. I mean, it's great, you know, but it's somewhat useless other than, you know, look how thin I can turn, right? So and when you get down to things like that are that thin, I mean, what's the point? I don't know. There's a good happy medium in there that you can try and strive towards.
It's a great answer, because, you know, most us turners, we think the thinner it is, the better it is.
No, that I've had pieces returned because people bought them and they were too thin. They didn't want something that thin. They didn't want something that was that delicate and fragile, right? So you're like, oh, okay. So yeah, it just didn't weigh. It doesn't weigh anything. You know, if you walk by it, if it's sitting on a shelf or something, you walk by it, the breeze might blow it over. So you know you're kind of screwed. So this is the medium angle, I guess you would say, and I'll start cutting using the front left of the tool to get. I'm going to start getting my wall thickness down that way. You're kind of doing the same thing as you did before, but you're just kind of turning with a different part of the tool.
So you're cutting by advancing the tool in, where most people, when they hollow, are doing just the opposite.
You know, and that's the thing, is I haven't watched too many other people hollow really before. So, and I mean, because I don't necessarily watch videos or anything like that, but you know, yeah, this is how I taught myself, or just, you know, how I did it. So, you know, now if I'm hollowing end grain, you know, the cutting is a little different. It'll be maybe with a different tool, maybe with the same tools, but then I'll be cutting from the center out most of the time until I get to the edge. And then I might try and make the same type of cut I'm making right now, just to clean that edge up a little bit, or with a scraper go in and try and smooth it out. So obviously this opening's a little larger than I normally do for a vessel of this size. I would do a smaller opening. But so having said that, you know, it's a lot easier to clean the stuff out. It kind of gets really tedious when the opening's small, but what are you going to do? You know, so. I'm getting close to the bottom down here. So when I get to the bottom of where I drilled my hole, I do want to start kind of in the back of my mind being cognizant of not taking out too much along the sides once you get to the bottom. You know, once you can start, if you get to the bottom down here, you don't want to start widening it out too much down here like this, because you will run into the edges over here. So you need to kind of be, you know, like I said, cognizant of that fact that if I'm at the bottom here, I just want to start taking out a little bit at a time, so I don't end up blowing it out right here at the right where my edge is right here. And I've done that many times.
You need one of Doug's camera pieces so you can see what you're doing.
Where's your bottom going to be from this view? How far is your bottom going to go? Right to the chuck?
Right? No. When I try and think of this, if I usually turn, you know, I've turned so many of these that, you know, and they're all done the same way. So I know that if I've turned this already, this line right here, that's where I'm going to put my bottom.
The inside.
Because the inside, the bottom's going to be right at this line right here. Because I'm going to continue the bottom, you know, it's going to be round. So I know it's going to come down here a little bit.
Okay.
So that's going to leave me hopefully maybe a little bit more material than I would have on the sides. Right. So.
Yeah.
So Greg, are you trying to view inside the vessel while you're hauling, or are you just going strictly by feel?
Oh, it's strictly by feel, because I mean, maybe with a larger piece, you might be able to see a little bit, right? But still, you know, you're still doing it by feel. So, and then, you know, obviously the little flashlight works really well for, okay. I mean, I've still got quite a bit of material down at the bottom, but I can start shining a light along my edges and see kind of where I'm at. I mean, I can see light shining through it all the way down. Obviously up here at the top, it's brighter. So obviously we're thinner there. So we'll, and I guess if you turn enough wood, lighter colored woods anyways, even like, you know, apple, pear, maple, anything that's got that lighter color, obviously the light's going to shine through it. And then by different woods, you'll be able to tell the thickness by the actual amount of light shining through, and, you know, kind of what color it is and all that stuff, just by doing that many different kinds of wood. Maple, you can get pretty thin. The edges, I mean, the light shining through will become like almost bright yellow color. And I can feel it with my fingers too. I mean, once it starts getting really thin, then you might want to, you could use your calipers or anything else you want to see if you can get the even thickness there. But I can tell with my fingers that it's still fairly thick, at least for the movement that I want. Smaller ones like this, maybe not so much, but it just depends on what kind of tool finish you can get on the inside. I'll come back with the scraper and maybe clean it up. And I do like to do that most of the time.
You're talking about a teardrop scraper?
Yeah, like I have, this is a Sorby handle or a tool with a scraper on the tip of it that I'll use. If you have smaller ones, I haven't tried any of the carbide cutters to know if they would do a good job, but I'm sure they would.
Greg, one of the things you might want to try, AZ Carbide has a carbide teardrop.
Do they? Okay. No, I've wanted to try them for that specific purpose, but and what brand was that?
Your buddy Ron Campo, AZ Carbide.
Yeah, I used to on Ron's site. I was on AZ Carbide the other day, and he had one there. They're the same price as the regular carbide. I was surprised. The regular teardrop. Is that right, Ron?
Right.
Like $34, Ron?
Yes, $34.
Okay.
$34.
Well, it's the thickest, heaviest carbide I have. I think it's 3 millimeters thick. Boy, you go inside, it's unbelievable. With wet wood, I can even hog with it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, sign me up. I want to try it. Do you know where I can get one?
Hey, Greg, it'll go in the mail Monday.
Okay. And obviously some woods turn better than others. We know this. So maple's pretty easy turning wood. Some woods are not. Even hollowing out, it can be a real pain in the butt. I love turning the little yew bushes, the root balls, but those are pretty labor intensive because there's so much dirt and stuff usually inside them. So you're usually sharpening your tools quite a bit. But yeah, it's kind of worth the effort though. And of course, any burl, if you can get it green or whatever, turns like butter pretty much. So I mean, I can probably take a few more passes down there and then call it good. I have the tool rest set back because once I do start hollowing, I want when the tip of my tool meets the wood, for the most part, I want the straight part of this shank on the tool rest, not like that, the curved part, because once you start hitting that wood, it's just going to turn it. It's just going to grab it and push it down like that. So you want the straight part of the shank on the tool rest. Do I do that all the time? No. But then again, I'll take light cuts so that doesn't happen. If anybody's never used them before, then always remember to keep that straight part of the shank on the tool rest. And unfortunately, my style of turning might not benefit most people. Let's see if we can get, okay. I'm not looking necessarily in the piece, but for me, comfortability, yes. For me to be comfortable turning these, I get down like this, and when I'm turning, I'm not trying to like look inside the piece. I'm actually just focused on this up here, the top of the vessel, and then just trying to feel my way, almost like I can't see because I can't. So I just have to imagine where I'm at, and with that feel, you know, not a guess, it's just, you know, after you've done it enough that you kind of get that feel for where you're at. With smaller vessels, I also, I kind of make it a habit when I'm going to pull the tool out after it's got shavings and stuff clogged in there. I'll actually turn the lathe off before I pull my tool out, because you can run into some problems trying to pull your tool out and if it's got shavings in there. So I kind of make it a habit when the opening's a lot smaller, I'll do that.
So how many turnings did you destroy before you learned that trick?
Quite a few. I mean, I still do it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still blow pieces up all the time. Well, I wouldn't say blow up, but because I don't, as you can see, I'm only turning at like 1100, 1200 RPM right now. Could I turn this at 2000 RPM? Sure. But the problem with that is it's, you know, turning faster, the shavings and everything inside are getting impacted on the sides a lot more. So it's kind of a bigger pain in the butt to try and clean it out because they're really impacted in there. So, you know, turning slower actually, in reality, is actually going to make it faster, because I'm not going to spend that much time trying to clean it out because that stuff's not impacted on the sides as bad. I think we're going to be good to go. So at this point, I have the inside done. So I'm going to come back. Like I said, now I'm going to come back and clean this edge up. And in actuality, the rim and my edge right here is probably I'm going to try and get it really thin, actually, because even though you have your vessel turned thin, you know, you want to try and keep it as consistent as possible, but you can get away with a little bit of cheating in terms of making some parts a little bit thinner to get a little bit more movement out of that part of the wood. So I'll just come back and take really light cuts up here. And you can change the shape of it, obviously, as well. You can gauge your thickness that way. I mean, it's still, you know, is it as thin as I want? No, but that's fine. Still gonna move. I can even make a whole nother pass and clean up my outside.
I'm surprised that outside isn't already warped.
You know, well, maple doesn't move a whole, well, it moves, but it's not one of the greater moving woods. Have I had, that does happen quite a bit though, with different woods. I'm trying to think. You know, I think what I have right now, but I think mulberry would be the only one that would do that. You know, but it's still pretty wet, so that's good. All right, good enough. So at this point, I would sand it. I'm not going to sand it today, but I can show you what I would do because it's pretty basic. But at the same time, the only difference is, like I said before, I'm going to use a, I'm going to try and, there we go. I'm going to use a torch, just a propane torch. You can use MAP gas if you want, just make sure it's turned down quite a bit. But anyways, I'm just going to take this and, like, my end grain is right here on the vessel and then on the other side right here. So I'm just going to go and lightly come over the piece and dry the surface out. And you'll see it. You'll see the moisture just wick away, right? So I'm going to go over the whole vessel like that and not trying to burn it or anything like that. I'm just trying to get that moisture to evaporate so that my surface is dry enough for me to sand it. And then once I have that good enough to where I want it, I'll just take, you know, and I'll power sand it with a drill and, you know, sandpaper. Depends on, you know, how smooth it is, what kind of wood it is, where I'll start at.
So why wouldn't you wet sand that, Greg?
Just because I've done both before and it doesn't seem to be that much difference because I can always soak it if I think it's too dry. And if I power sand it, it's faster than wet sanding it at this point. And when you get pieces that are bigger like this, wet sanding does work, but it does take a little bit longer. So I've wet sanded pieces like this before. Yeah, that's all right. I mean, it works, but it just seems to take a little bit longer. So, you know, and like I said, if I'm worried about it staying wet, I'm not worried about this because I can always soak it for a little bit in water. And then if it's thin enough, then, you know, you don't have to soak it for too long and it'll just be completely wet again.
Is there any advantage to using the torch over a heat gun?
I don't have a heat gun, so I would assume it's the same thing. A heat gun would probably work just fine. I just don't have one, so what I did have was a torch when I first, you know, tried it out. So I was like, okay, good enough.
Yeah, I tried a heat gun earlier this week, doing something like that, and it didn't work as well as my torch.
Right. Okay. Well, there you go.
And who doesn't want to play with fire, you know, when you got that choice?
Well, right. I mean, come on now. So I'm gonna, I don't know what this would be called, friction drive jam chuck. It's just a piece of PVC pipe to turn the bottom. So it's a piece of, I don't know, 3-inch, I guess, 3.5-inch PVC. So when I left that nub on the bottom here with my center mark, I'll need that to line it back up. I just take paper towel or something soft. So my edges are turned kind of round on this PVC pipe anyways, but just so it doesn't dig in.
Can you move your overhead a little bit so we can see the tail end?
Oh, yep.
Or
Yeah,
use
you
the
can
side
move.
view.
You know, see the side view, see if that helps. Can move it back.
Move it up a little bit. Yeah.
So there's my center mark, and I'm just, you know, gonna line it up. I mean, I want pressure on it so it doesn't spin in here when I turn it on, but I don't want to, you know, obviously crack it or anything like that. So and if it doesn't run super true, you can try and move it around a little bit but I mean, this one's running fine. Because when you get it done and you're sanding it, you can sand away if there's a little bit of a ridge right there. So it's not too terribly imperative. Side's better. Kind of work up from the bottom. And I kind of start matching my where my wall's at. Or you can come in like this. Now, if I'm normally doing these, like, once I get to a point where my bottom's close to being like I have a little bit of a nub left over, like that, what I'll do is I'll stop it. And this is at the point that let me rephrase that. If I was going to want to put a flat bottom on this piece, this is the point that I would stop. I would sand it as much as I can up to this nub right here. And then I would dry it out in the microwave. And once it's dry, and I'll leave the nub on right here with the center mark, and then I'll come back and do the exact same thing. Just put it back into the piece of pipe and then turn my flat bottom after it's dried out. So, but since this one's gonna have a round bottom, that's not necessary. Okay. So, so we have this little nub right here. And if you get it thin enough right in here, you can just break it off. And then you can just sand that little nub right there down, which I will in a minute, because then I'll have to change over to my Dremel. But right now, we're going to move over to the microwave. So, as I move the side camera, Got it. So,
Did you want to change the view to the side camera yet?
yeah, let's, it's not much to see, but, oh, it moved. Been down. Is that all right? Can you see that? Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
looks good.
So once again, woods dry differently. Different kinds of wood dry differently. Maple, you can microwave it pretty good before it starts to burn. If this was oak or something like that, maybe a little less time because oak will burn pretty quick and dry out pretty quick. So knowing, I don't have it, memorized or anything, but just done it enough to know that the thickness that this piece is, I know that I can at least start out for 2 minutes and put it on high power. And it probably still won't be dry when it's done, but it'll probably need another round, but that'll be that. And obviously if it's really, really thin, then, not that much time or a lot less time.
Greg, John Singleton wants you to talk a little bit about your piece of pipe, what it is, and maybe how you put it together.
My piece of pipe like this is, it's just a piece of PVC. I'm trying to think what size. Hold on. It's burned and all that. It's 3-inch, I guess, 3-inch PVC. And I don't remember where I got it. I think I had it for something here at the house. It was just, and I was just laying around and I figured, let me try it, see if it'll work like a little jam chuck or whatever. And it does, because you can turn PVC with your tools real easy. So I just put it on my chuck, and expanded the jaws. And then I turned the inside. So it was somewhat of, it was a bevel on the inside. So it's not sharp. There's no sharp corners anywhere. So that, and it works really good. I'm sure you could use, a bunch of other sizes too, but I mean, it seems to work really good. I use it a lot for all my vessels and stuff. So,
so we have another question. Do you put weights on the opening to change the shape after it's drying or during the drying process?
No, just straight, just put it in there straight. I don't put any weight on these or anything.
Breakfast is ready.
Breakfast is ready. And so is it warm? Yeah, it's steaming. But
other camera.
Not. Oh, yeah. Hold on. Okay, there we are. So she's steaming. Smells like wet maple. Burning. No, but it's still is steaming, and it's not super hot to the touch where I can't touch it. So you can feel it's still a little bit wet. You can still feel it. So I'll put it in again for 2 minutes.
Have you had any catch fire yet in the microwave?
Oh yeah. Very few have actually caught, flamed out in there. It happens, but it's not too often. Most of the time, obviously you can smell it right away when anything's burning in there. So most of the time you can smell it and you open it up and it's just like a dark spot, but it's still smoking pretty bad. So I've had a couple of real smokers in there before, And my microwave's actually in the house. I just bring it out here for the demos, but it gets to be quite smoky sometimes. Not all the time.
If it gets smoky and then you go and heat up your lunch, you kind of got like a smoke flavored lunch.
Well, absolutely. Smoke, get some apple smoking in there. See? Some woods don't smell good though when they're for some reason walnut, it does not smell good at all. Even when it's drying out in the microwave. But that's usually that's one of the worst smells I've encountered drying stuff out is like wet walnut. I'm trying to dry that out. But
turn off your mini me before you pull that out of there, okay?
Okay.
There you go.
So she's still a little, is it still wet? Yeah, probably. Can I put it back in there? Yes. Will I? Yes. But so you can actually, if you can, I'll put it in one more time for a minute and then I'll bring it out and show the.
And you're doing this you're microwaving it just to dry it, not to deform it, right?
Oh, it's one and the same. When you dry it out that fast, the wood's gonna move, and you've turned it thin enough, so that's gonna cause the warping and the deformation.
Okay, and you're looking for that also.
Oh, that's why I do it, right?
Okay.
Because I don't want. Well, it's not that I don't want, but I enjoy. Somebody was talking to another turner on Facebook one time, and he knows how I like to turn stuff, and he's like, "You like stuff that's just like you, thin and warped." So there you have it, right? Thin and warped.
Your side grain vessels compared to your in-grain vessels when you're drying them in the microwave.
The side grain stuff moves way more than the end grain. You might get some movement on end grain if it's got a lot of like maybe some branches or something coming out of it. Ooh, it's hot. See, I can smell it right now, and if it had been in there any longer, it probably would have started burning somewhere on it. So I'm trying to get a good view here. Let me see if I can zoom in. She's a little hot. Or maybe this, yeah. Maybe not. Actually, I'm going to bring the side camera back over. So if we're going to look at it from the side grain view of it like this. Okay, so you would really not notice any movement, right? That's the shape of our vessel that we turned, right? So, but once we turn, everything looks pretty uniform on the sides, like going down from the top down to the bottom. But if we turn it this way, well, so you're going to see that, if I can get this just right, damn it. Huh. Anyways, so there you go, that's better. If I'm going to stand it up like that, so that's how much it's moved. It's standing straight up right now. So we've had this side kind of collapse over here, and this side's kind of pushed out this way, which in turn made the top kind of go at a sloping angle. So that's how it would sit on a flat surface, because we left a little bit of material in the bottom, so the bottom's a little heavier. So as you can tell, if I made the opening a little smaller, you'll have more movement of that rim, and it'll kind of, and if it was a little taller maybe this way, then you'll have more movement, more eccentric movement that way.
Greg, based on last Saturday's conversation about drying
Yes.
the piece, you can achieve the same thing by just letting it air dry.
You could, absolutely. You can let it air dry. You know, the only time I let anything air dry is if it will not fit in the microwave, right? So, but having said that, you know, it will still move just as much, maybe even more. I'm not sure, but it all just depends, really.
Check your camera. There you go.
Yeah. So I'm going to move. I'm trying to think. I might move the top and side camera for the texturing part of it, because I want to at least try and get, I'm moving my setup. Oh, there we go. Woohoo. Okay. So I've got different pieces.
Greg, if you added moisture to certain areas of the piece, would that cause the warping to
not adding moisture to it, I don't think so. But what I have noticed is, and I've been playing around with it, is turning, I know it kind of sounds taboo, maybe a little bit, but turning certain parts of the piece thinner than others, right? So you're almost making like grooves on the inside that are thinner than the rest of the wall thickness. And it does do a lot of different stuff. You'll get a lot more movement if there's some thinner areas. So sometimes that's what I try and work on. I've had some mistakes that I came out really cool like that. So I've been trying to replicate it. It's just a continual process of, keep trying stuff until you find something that works, right? I'm trying to move everything so I can see. I got the monitor moved now.
Hey, Doug, would that monitor for your camera system be similar to what he's using there?
I think it's the same one, isn't it? Isn't that what you said? It's the same type of monitor?
Yeah, it's exactly what he's using there is my camera, my Halloween monitor.
Right. Got my Dremel. Hopefully, let me check the top view, see if that's going to be okay. And, okay. That's about where I need to go. Okay.
Yeah, you could tilt the boom on that top one to get it in closer without having to zoom. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Tilt the boom and just bring it down.
Right.
Should be
able to. I'll just have to reposition the camera, but that's fine.
There you go.
Oh, let's see it. Whoa.
You got to have it back far enough that your head and hat don't block the camera.
Right. I'll just have to sit back. Is that better, or you think you can go down?
That's good. No, that looks good. It's
okay.
Yeah.
I can zoom in a little bit more.
Now you can zoom in more, and it's not so fuzzy.
Right. Okay. Because I don't want to. I'm trying to get to where that, because I noticed that it kind of washes out the lighter colored woods. All right. So this is a piece of apple that was textured with the rotary tool. This one.
Would you like go between the grains with it?
It's just the sapwood that I did, and I started out. There we go. I started out with just the line down here.
Okay.
Started out with the one line and just followed that one all the way around. A lot of the times that's how I do my carving or texturing, is I'll start out with one line and go off that one line. So it's kind of weird, but it's how it happens. So this piece, box elder, what I did was I dyed it first, right? And then came back after I dyed it and put the texture in. Let's see if we can get it closer. So the texture, it gives the piece, it's almost like that's what the piece of wood looks like underneath the blue, right? So you're kind of peeling away the blue, and it uncovers the texture here.
And you did that how?
I'm going to show you how I did that one. And then this other piece is completely textured the same, not the same way, but I mean, it's completely textured. This almost has it's like I drew a maze over the whole piece, right?
Yeah.
Can you see that now? Or almost looks like fingerprints.
Or worm trails.
Yeah, worm trails, fingerprints, maze. So, and then this one is kind of the same texture. This is kind of my go-to texture. You can see it better there. Now, how I do that. Okay. I'm showing you because it's almost there's not much to it. I have a Dremel. I don't have another carve. That's my rotary tool that I use as a Dremel. All the bits that I use for carving or whatnot are all Dremel bits. I do have some saber-tooth stuff that I use for, like heavy duty carving or whatnot. So this little guy here is my go-to bit for texturing. It is this is actually a Dremel bit. I think I got it at Menards. It's the smallest one. It's like I don't know what they would call it, like a diamond. It's kind of got it's the diamond cutter or whatever. It's just like almost smooth, but it's got a little bit of a coarseness to it.
I have a question on the board there. If you took wood that is already kind of dry and turned it, and then can you soak it, get it wet, and then microwave it to deform it?
If you get it thin enough, you can.
It will still deform then, even though it's dry.
Yeah, if it's partly dry, yeah. If you get a piece of wood that I think is bone dry, I don't think you can add water to it again. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, the cell structure is completely dried out and everything's closed up, and I don't think you'll be able to get water back in there. Okay. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that answers this question, I think.
Okay.
Right, John?
So, but if it's partly dry and if it's got still somewhat of a decent moisture content, yeah, you can still, I would say, turn it and then soak it. Probably have to soak it for longer, but that's fine.
When you say soak it for longer, is that like throw it in a thing of water overnight or for a day or
you'd have to, yeah, just trial and error. I've soaked stuff for a day, 2 days, a week. It just depends. I'd say a good rule of thumb is a day, and then go from there. If that doesn't work, then try 2 days.
All right, thank you.
Got it. So I'm going to do the stippling type texture of like this piece and this piece. So this is, like I said, it's that little diamond, whatever they call it, bit. It's just smooth, but it's got kind of a coarse texture. It's just a round ball. Well, I'm going to try and I'll stand up to try and get this into the camera so we can see it. Forgive the Dremel. So all I'm going to do, I'm not going to apply a lot of pressure to the actual bit. I'm just going to start. There's many different ways you can do it, but we'll start out with this one. I'm just going to start doing little circles. You can do a figure-8 pattern. But what I do is I usually do little circles. You can go back over the stuff that you've already done. That's fine. You make the circles bigger, which is normally what I do. I'm not applying a lot of pressure. That's showing up good?
Yes.
Okay. See it? Or we can do, you can do bigger circles. I do have larger bits like this too. They're just going to create that texture a little bit larger pattern. But you can make larger circles. And all you're doing is leaving a little bit of the wood, the bare wood that's underneath, or I'm sorry, on top. You're going to leave that, and some of that's going to be exposed. I've done that too. And then I've done something where I'll get a pencil, like a number 2 pencil, scribble on some paper with it a lot, and then rub my finger on it and get that graphite on my finger. And then I'll just lightly go over the raised part of it, and it'll just turn the raised part dark, the graphite color, just to add some contrast to it. So let's go, we can do a small, worm tracks or, so that's literally, you're just going to be drawing those lines in it. I'm still not applying a lot of pressure. But you could literally make it one line if you wanted to. I'm just following the lines that I've already done.
Oh, yeah.
You get really creative and do designs and stuff. I mean, this is a random design. You could try and, incorporate other stuff into it. And you can do smaller versions of this and maybe closer together, so you're not leaving the bare wood exposed.
We have a question.
Yep.
Hey, on the blue piece that you have
Yes.
there, did you bleach it before you put the dye on?
Yes.
Was it bleached then
It
dyed?
was bleached then dyed. 2 reasons. So that, yeah, definitely after I, knowing that after I had dyed it and I carved it out, that wood underneath would be lighter, but also for the simple fact that bleaching, you know, this is box elder, so it's light to begin with, but it pretty much turns white. I know that my dye will come out really vibrant, right? And be a really vibrant color if I bleach the piece beforehand. Start with that white, you know, background.
Right.
You know, as far as other stuff, other textures, there's plenty that you can do. I've used pretty much anything I can think of to get different textures, or, you know, even, you know, carving and whatnot, right? So
on that kind of a vessel, use that rotary chisel.
This rotary chisel right here?
Yeah.
Have I used it on what?
On that, would you have done it on that thin of a vessel, or do you have to use something a little bit thicker because of the?
Oh, I've used it on small ones before. I mean, this one, I used it on this one, and it's pretty thin. But it's just, you know, it's a light touch. I'm not trying to really hog anything out. I would just take a light cut. It does a good job of, so you could create that, you know, you could go all the way around the rim with it. Lightly, right?
There you go.
Thank you.
And then the other way, kind of give you a bigger, more of that carved look. This rotary chisel is really dull, so it's speeding up the wood pretty good, but you can at least get a lot of different things out of it. Now, so after I've textured something, or, you know, it's not going to leave a super smooth finish. So there's a couple of different things you can do. You know, the Dremel, they have different little sanding wheels. Like they have those little wire brush sanding wheels like that. Sorry. Dropped it. They work good for cleaning it up. Or I actually found that there's like they make a rubber one that has like feelers that come off of this part, you know, but I've worn it down to nothing. But I've actually found that, like, this is rubber, so it works really good for getting like the little torn stuff that you need to get out. You can't use it like too aggressively, but it does work really good for cleaning up your textured areas, because you're going to have you're going to have some spots that are, you know, on the side grain and stuff that are hairy from doing it. So you want to try and make sure that you don't have that. So you can come over with this thing and just kind of like lightly go over where you textured already, and it'll get rid of the hairy stuff. and give it a little bit more of a, you know, finished look, polished look. Even like on this one, I still see some hairy spots. But you can't be too aggressive because it will take the texture right off, even something pretty soft.
I have another question on the board here.
Yep.
Have you ever pierced wood leaving a lace type effect?
Yep.
Are you into piercing?
I'm not into it. Have I done it? Yes. Have I done all kinds of weird, wacky carving? Yeah. Here. So I got a couple of these. So this is a piece of, this is beech. But what I did was the sapwood was really wide on it and it was pretty spalted. So it was really, really soft, really soft. So I ended up turning, you know, the shape out of it, but then started to, you know, like, I think I used, to start out, I used the saber tooth bit, and then just kind of, you can almost carve the whole thing out and work your way around. You know what I mean? So there's that. Same thing with this, but this was a piece of, and then I tried to do a little bit more designs with it. This is a piece of maple burl or something. I don't know, a long time ago. But yeah, you can try and, you know, but definitely using all different kinds of bits to get inside these small areas up in here and on the sides. But yeah, there's that. Trying to think. Oh, so another, you know, the sanding pad, like that sanding drum, like this, I use that a lot for different stuff. Use it for kind of shoring some areas up before you sand them that have got a little bit of ridges and stuff like that. Or, you know, you can do pieces like these with it. These were completely done with that sanding drum on the Dremel, right? So that's a piece of walnut. And this is a piece of cherry.
So did you bore the hole in that, or was there a hole there?
That one right there? Oops,
No,
sorry.
the big hole, the curvy hole.
That?
Yeah, that.
Oh, that, well, I hollowed it out from a hole right here, right? Because you can see the center
okay.
down there. So hollowed it, and then what it was, so my center hole was here, and the pith was still visible right here, this side and this side, and it, you know, kind of cracked over here and a little bit over here. So I just took it all out, right? I started out with that. I carved that out, and then I just followed that line all the way around, you know, till it. So if you start at one line, it's gonna carve around, and it's gonna end up going and doing things like that. So it'll end up making a circle somewhere, right? So, and on that side too. So
is that sandpaper drum pretty aggressive? Like 60 grit?
Yeah, yeah, it's like 80 grit, I think. I don't know if they have a 60 grit one or not. I think they have 80 and 120. But I mean, it's aggressive enough, you know, and that. I mean, you'll go. They're not that expensive, and there's a reason why, because you're going to go through quite a few of them, right? Yeah. But
can I make a comment real quick?
Yeah.
Yep. Go ahead.
This is Jay. How you guys doing today? I spent 27 years in the jewelry business, and I've got a major assortment of bits of all kinds.
Yeah.
One thing I found very useful is Brassler Dental, for example, out of Georgia, and other dental supply companies make thousands and thousands of different types of bits and sanding abrasives, rubber and sandpaper, all different grits. And it's far less expensive to buy it from the dental supplies or the jewelry supplies than to go to some of the woodworking stores. But there's this, many different sources there that if you look up dental supply, you can find all kinds of places you can buy these things, buy the boxes, buy the hundreds. It's not expensive.
Wow. Cool.
Have a great day.
Nice.
It's a great demonstration, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that I've always wanted. I am an oddball. I'm not gonna lie about that. But
we're all oddballs.
I enjoy going to the dentist to watch and look at all their tools that they have, all the bits. It's like, oh wow, man, that one's cool. It's like,
Hey, we have got another question on the board. If you're going to texture something, do you leave the walls a little thicker to accommodate it?
Not really, because especially with the texture like this one, or even this one, it's a little thick. The piece is a little thicker, but not much. No, because you're not. It's crazy how much you're not taking away just to create that texture. So it can still be really thin, and you're not gonna go through it because this texture is just so light and it's just sitting on the top, right? So this one, I mean, this texture is a little bit deeper, but it's still,
How thick did you turn that one that you carved with the sandpaper drum?
Oh, those obviously something like that. Now, yes, that has to be turned thicker to accommodate for how much I want to take out, right? Because I know I was going to carve this in there, those lines in there like that. So definitely have to take into consideration, because you can still get away with, I try to keep the grooves uniform. So, but once you get down to here, when they start getting larger on the sides, like here and down here and stuff, you're going to have to try and take more of that material out to get that groove to line up with the other ones and to, kind of be consistent. So you are going to have to remove more material down there. So that's definitely something you have to be aware of. How I don't really have any master tip for that other than to just kind of eyeball it as best you can. You're going to take out a lot of material, but you're always going to be surprised at how much material is left. Let me put it that way, because it's just the way it goes. Same thing. It's just, you don't really take off that much. You don't have to take off that much to put a design in something or to make something look completely different, if that makes sense. Any more questions?
Yeah, I'm curious, Greg, on the blue one there where you dyed the whole thing and then you stripped it back to the white wood.
Yep.
Is that white surface smooth, or is that cut?
No, that's textured. I'm trying to get it up in there. Focus.
So did you use a rotary the kind of diamond shaped tool to do that, or what?
I just used this one.
That one. Okay. Huh.
That one. See, I'm trying to get it to focus on the little ball because it's smooth. It doesn't have any cutters on it, but it's got that.
I think the side camera might focus a little better on that.
Okay, it's got like the.
Maybe not.
What do you? Maybe not.
Back away.
Back away. Keep backing up until it focuses.
Yeah, it's focusing on the background.
Yeah.
Right.
Hold a piece of paper behind it or something.
Yeah. Hey, you can do that.
Something dark.
Or light.
That you're almost doing a burnishing versus.
There we go.
There you go. Okay. No. Okay.
You see it now? It's a smooth one, but it's got that light abrasive coating on it. It's like, I think they call it a diamond cutter or something like that.
Oh,
but because it's got like but that's all. It's, smooth. It doesn't have any of the cutting blades like the other ones do, like this one does.
It's almost like it's a burnishing more than a cutting.
Right. I can't
Back
get
up
it.
and then back up and then move in. Yep.
So this is just one of those small cutters. This actually has the cutting, edges on it.
Like
But it's a small one. Yeah, but I use these too, and the only thing that does take out more material, and it'll like create a deeper texture, which it's not a big deal if you like that. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Greg?
Any more questions?
Well, that was a great demo, Greg. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. No.